per se. I think they're going to be tough enough as they are. Come on girl, get in there. Oh, wrong hole. I'm sure we've all had that issue before in the past. Right, let's get that in there. Howdy, I'm Matt, and in this video together we're going to be building the little black wing. Now unfortunately I don't have any MG90S, those really cool little metal geared servos with me, so I can't actually get the servos in as part of this build, but it is really dirt simple to do. All in all, yeah, it's not a complex build at all, in short, so join me for the ride. In short, there really isn't anything complicated at all. So there's me saying it's not complicated. With that start, let's go and get ourselves started. So I do have the hot glue gun going. I've got some Yoo-Hoo Pour. I've got some other bits and bobs. I've got some E6000 glue. We'll probably just be using a mishmash of glues. I've also got some pins here as well. We'll need to get those sorted out to hold the motor mount on. And I'll tell you what, the first place which I'm going to start with is the motor mount. Now I've already been and sanded the back of the motor mount, and we do need to sand. This is moulded EPP, and anytime we put any glue anywhere near it, we want to make sure that we give it a really good sand, nice rough good key for the glue to stick to that. Now my glue of preference for that motor area, it really is going to be, it's either going to be Goop or E6000 glue. So let's go and give a nice good smear on there. Move that out to one side. Yeah, dead straightforward. Give that, and I can smell that hot glue cooking over on the side. Oh, and there was one thing which I noticed in the unboxing, when we did the unboxing, there was two bits of plastic and I didn't know what they were actually for, if I'm frankly honest. And then when I went to put it together, is that I noticed that there's two little bits of black plastic which fill up these holes underneath and hold the main shaft in place. I thought that was pretty cool. Now that's something which I can't glue in on mine, which is a bit frustrating because I don't have the servos available to build it. But I do have some on order, and I expect they're going to be, I've been waiting long enough, so I'm sure they're going to be with me in the next day or so. So we've got the motor mount glued on there, nice and straight. Now a little tip for you, what I was going to do was I was going to stick some pins in that to hold it still, but what I am going to go and do is underneath my desk, masking tape. Just straightforward, builders, decorators, masking tape, and all I'm going to do is just stick that on the bottom in there like so, and then it'll keep the motor mount in place. In fact, I actually need to bend that back up a bit because I know that we've got the base to fit in there in a few moments time. So yeah, the motor mount's in there, it's in there straight. And again, if you've got any reservations or you've any fears that it might move, then just stick a pin or two just down the sides and that will hold it in place, and the pins will stop the motor mount from twisting or doing anything like that. So there's the motor mount done. Next on is that we want to get the servos. Well actually I need to line up because I'm curious on where these servos are going to sit. So where's the wires? Ah, right. That makes me feel a lot better. I was a bit worried I was going to have to pause and do something else in the interim, but actually without the servos it's not the end of the world and we can just tag the wires in. Now before we go any further, this wing on there, I don't know if you can see that, we do need to sand this flat surface in here and the inside of the wing as well. So I'm just getting a sanding pad. It's quite a rough one. Going to give that nice little sand on there and clean up the edge as well. So hopefully you can see how dull that is now. It's no, if you look at the top, it's all shiny, and the bit where we're going to be gluing, that's all dull now. Again, you can't get a sanding pad inside of that area there, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get the craft knife in there and I'm just going to score it with the craft knife. Now also thinking aloud is this ridge section up here where we're going to be putting the top fin in, that also needs to get sanded too, because that is going to need to get glued a little bit later as well. So let's go and get that sanded. Now we've been and done one, let's quickly do the other. I did say this was going to be a quick build. Now, do note that I'm here chatting to you as we're going along, and I did say about 20 minutes to put it together, and I do think it would be about a 20-minute build, but obviously I'm here having a chit chat, you're here joining me to stick a model together. So it is kind of what it is. I'm not entirely sure what motor I'm going to put in it just yet, but I'm sure we will, well, I'm sure you'll find out soon enough. And again, I need to get in there and just rough up that little nodule area in there. Again, I am stabbing it with a knife, I'm not really holding back, and again, that's what you want a nice glue surface. And then on the side of the model itself, there is a little ridge just down there. We want to make sure it's sanded, because that's where the top fin's going to go in. This flat surface is also going to get sanded as well. There we go. And then this little tab which is pointing out, that's going to get a good sanding all the way around. And of course we need to do the other side as well, so let's quickly do that. So then I've got the hot glue gun on, and by the way, this is one of the best £4 I've ever spent. I'll put a link to them in the video description, and it does work with 4S, as you might be able to tell. There's a 4S pad there, and it has worked brilliantly, and it cost me $4, £4, whatever it was stupid cheap. And I've been buying the glue sticks off Amazon, like a million of them for a couple of quid, and that's worked out really, really well. So let's do, again, I am being a little bit scatty here. They do have this little notch either side here, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think it's supposed to be a strap. But there was no strap included in the box, and frankly, I don't have any Velcro that short. So what I'll do, I'll actually put some Velcro in on top of that instead. And what I'll do, just quickly get in there, sand it up. Now, you could use hot glue, you could use Yoo-Hoo Pour, you could use any old glue you like. I think, to be honest, because this is my model, and I've got a tube of E6000 here to the side, that's the glue which I'm going to use. Just going to quickly grab the tube, just give it a quick whip round, like so. There we go. And if perhaps I was more prepared, or we had a bit of an offcut of some foam, is perhaps we could use that to spread the glue around, but hey ho, we're just going to squish it in there really good, like so. So that's stuck down, that's not going anywhere. And again, if you want to ensure that it's not going to fall out or anything daft, then just stick a pin or two down in there. That will hold the plywood in place, it's not going to go anywhere then. And there we go, there's the little top lid in, that's all sorted in there. We'll stick that to one side. Again, I don't know about FPV on this one yet, and perhaps you could just use the Runcam 2 in the lid, or you could just put your FPV camera on that top lid section there instead of trying to cut out the nose area. Bit of a curious one, to be frankly honest, not entirely sure what I'm going to do with that just yet. And I tell you what, not talking about what not to be doing just yet, what I am going to go and do is, I don't know if you can see in that lid area, is that we do have areas for putting magnets in, and we do need to go and consult the little bag of goodies which we got, and there is a collection of magnets and goodies in there. And that reminds me, we probably should put the Elevon control horns on. And again, I'm not really following a process, I'm just looking at the parts which I've got in front of me, and we'll work off those. So magnets, we do need to do these in pairs, like so. And the idea is that we want them all facing the right way. Now, a simple little trick is that you can use a Sharpie pen, which I don't have, and that's really annoying, is that we want to make sure these magnets stick together. So with that said, let's put this on that way. So that magnet attacks on the bottom. What you could do is use a little Sharpie pen and then just mark all the north poles or all the south poles on them, and then just put them in a list. But as this is just the lid, I'm just going to poke them in. I'm just going to use a little dab of hot glue. Again, I need to make sure I get these all pointing, well, ideally aim for them to all point the same direction. I'm just giving that a little dose of hot glue in there. Again, you could use CA glue, you could use Yoo-Hoo Pour, you could use epoxy if you wanted to as well. It's all much of a muchness really. Obviously there are instances where different glues are better, but that said, I've got hot glue here with me right now. It's dirty and it's hot, so that's what we're using. In short, just wipe that over. Cool beans. Try not to glue my fingers to it. Next one, poke that in there. And because I have got it connected to a 4S battery, it is really hot. So that makes it, we do get quite a bit of playtime with it, which is happy days. Let's poke that one in there, make sure it's down flat. So there's the magnets in, and we also have the lid being glued down as well. So there's the lid in and out of the way. I think I'll leave the hot glue get running just in case I need it in a few moments time. Now let's get back to these wings. What do we do first? I tell you what, let's go and get the control horns on. Now there was something which I did notice when I was editing the video of the unboxing, is that when it comes to the control horns, is number one, they are decent control horns which we've got, but also is that the servo needs to be mounted underneath with the control horn up, which is actually very, very good. It's one of the weaknesses for the Wing Wing Z84, which is with the Wing Wing Z84, because the servos are on the bottom, they don't necessarily have enough. It's easier to pull than what it is push, if that makes sense. And with the Z84, it does suffer a little bit like that, especially at exceptionally high speeds. And I do mean exceptionally high speeds. And there's me giggling to myself. I have in the past, and you can look it up on my YouTube channel, that made the world's fastest Wing Wing Z84. That thing absolutely screamed and ripped the sky a new one. Boy, she was fast, and we still had potential in it for more. But anyway, my point being is that servo control horns on the top of the surface do seem to work out a lot better, and I'm having issues just getting this little screw on. There's only 2 screws for each side. I don't think there's any requirement for glue per se. I think they're going to be tough enough as they are. Come on girl, get in there. Oh, wrong hole. I'm sure we've all had that issue before in the past. Right, let's get that in there. Just getting the, apologies, there's me just chatting away to myself. And we'll go and get that done up. Yeah, we'll see how these elevons do over time. There is a bit of flex in them. Let me turn it around that way. And they are a little bit flexible, but I'm not that concerned about it, because I know that I can stick a bit of carbon in it, or a bit of carbon rod down the back. But we'll try and keep this model as basic as we can to begin with, and if it needs to be tweaked, well, it needs to be tweaked, doesn't it? So I'm not going to purposely go, oh, they're completely cack. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and we'll go from there, in short. So just go and get this. They are quite a little bit of a fiddle. They are just tiny little blooming screws. So let's try that again. Stick that in there. Again, both wings are going to be exactly the same. Just stick that one in there. Yeah, only 2 screws for each side. I think that's probably all we need. Let's get these up. Oh, and a big tip for you. I don't know how well that's going to come out on the camera. You'll notice that this side with the nodules on is the nodule. It's going in to the bottom of the model. So we're doing the nodules inside, so that it helps grip to the actual foam itself, and the flat sides on the bottom. In fact, let me just make a point just to show you. You'll see that the nodules are facing down into the actual model itself. So the first screw is always the easiest. The second one, as we found out a few moments ago, is typically the hardest. And saying that, that looks like that one's gone in. First time, happy days. Brilliant. Right. There we go, get that done up. Right, next challenge now. This is where, if you were following me along, this is where you would go and put your servos in. That is not the case for me. What I'm going to do with mine is put the, well, yeah, you would put your servos in. I'm going to skip a step because, like I said, I don't have my servos here. So instead, what we're going to do, we're going to get the carbon fibre. Do note that two of the pieces are longer or shorter than the other two, and we need to get that in. Now, a big health and safety warning. I'm going to sand my carbon fibre, and you can obviously sand your carbon fibre, but just be aware that carbon fibre dust is really, really not good for your health. Okay, so you should obviously do that outside in a well ventilated area, and you're going to use your own discretion on doing that. I'm just giving it a quick scuff to get a key on there. Remember to wash your hands afterwards as well. That's the last thing you want to be eating. You don't want to be breathing it, let alone eating it. Excuse me. Like I said, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, which is really dragging on. Anyway, gonna get me E6000 glue. Just gonna stick it in the groove, run it all the way along. Job's a good one. There we go. There's one. I'll tell you what, I'll do the back one while I'm at it as well. And the goal there was just to fill up the trench with the glue. So there's a short one on the back. I think you can still see that on the camera. You can. I'm just going to get that in there, poke that down. There we go. Keep an eye out for the excess, which is now pouring out everywhere as well. Yeah, and I think I'm going to omit to perhaps putting too much glue in there. And maybe I should have perhaps used a little bit less. But that said, more glue the better. Let's face it, this wing is going to need every help it can, because we are going to absolutely cane the nuts off it. And the excess glue I'm just going to rub along the bottom, like so. Again, you should really be using rubber gloves for this E6000 glue. Again, that's not particularly good for one's health. And rub the rest of it off in the desk, as you do. Right, so there's one side. Let's quickly do the other side as well. Did Matt learn his mistake from the first one and not to put too much glue in there, or was just Matt just going to go whip along there? In fact, I'm probably going to go quicker than I went last time to try and put less glue in the little slit there for the carbon strip. There we go, that looks like plenty. Brilliant. Get the lid back on the glue. We're making good progress. Just get the other one in, jab that in. Again, do you see what I mean now? That it really is just a quick, there's nothing taxing here. Thank goodness me, if this thing was made out of balsa, well, that'd be us gone for the next 4 months. Sorry, by the way, if you enjoy balsa models, but I'm afraid they just take far too long to build. It's so tedious, and one little smack and there are a million pieces, whereas you've got to admit foam nowadays foam models is made the hobby so much more accessible and is made it much more fun, to be frankly honest. And I know that you could say that building a model with out of balsa is much more enjoyable and things like that. And again, it depends which part of this hobby you enjoy. Maybe you just like the flying bit, maybe you like the FPV bit, maybe you like the build bit, maybe you like the design bit. Maybe you don't like the repair bit, because I can tell you that I point blank don't like the repair bit. Anyway, coming back to the fuselage, we did have a carbon spar and a tube as well. Right, so let's go and get that spar glued up in there. Just going to quickly sand either side. Oh, I mean, and Torment, I've left the hot glue gun on just for this bit, and I actually don't think I'm going to use the hot glue gun for this. Or do I? Oh, Torment. I'll tell you what, I am. Screw it. What we need to do is just get a little bit of hot glue down in on that edge, just in there. And we need to do the same on the other side. Whoa, far too much hot glue. And then we need to get that tube in there, and then we need to get it stuck in and stuck down as well. And I've just managed to fill the tube with hot glue. Well done, Matt. That's always good going. Well done, lad. Let's quickly fill that up. Ow, that glue's hot. And I'm just going to pull it up to the top to make sure it's in there straight, and clear off the excess from either side, because we don't want the excess to be causing us an issue. Because remember, we've got glue on there shortly. There we go. Get the spar out as well. Quickly pick off the glue which I've got on there, so hopefully you can see what I've just been and done there. We've got the spar. Let's start picking the hot glue off there. We've got the spar just here in there, and it's roughly flat either side. Wow, that's really stuck in there now. And then what we can then do is that we'll get those two bits of foam which I mentioned, because I didn't really realise what they were for until I looked at the kit properly and then realised that they're there for blocking up and to support the main spar, which I thought was a very good idea. So let's go and sort myself out of a new glue sticker now. There we go, we'll pop that on the end, turn it round, brilliant. And make sure we get this the right way round. So that is that side and that one is that side. And the goal of these pieces, they're going to fill up these holes on the side, and then we'll then support the main shafts. So I'm just going to get in there with some dirty hot glue either side. Probably been better to stick it on the actual frame piece itself, but hey ho, it's too late now. We're going to ram that home like so. There we go. So that will now hold the main spar in there like so. Yeah, nice little neat finish. And again, it would be nicer if they'd done that in the factory for us, but hey ho, if you're spending some time, effort and energy on the actual model itself, does that mean, or does that make it feel like you've actually built the model? There's a question for you. Even if you, it's like those self-made cake, the cake mix from the supermarket, isn't it? Do they leave out the requirement for eggs on purpose? I think they do. Market research says that at least it makes the person who is making the kit or the cake make it feel like they've actually done something, even if they've only just been to put an egg in the kit, to put it together to make the cake. Right, sorry I read that ages ago. Anyway, that's that in. Next up, we need to glue the wings on, get the main spar in. So here's a bit of irony. I'm going to be using E6000 glue, and that's the end of the hot glue now. Obviously you could continue, go on and put hot glue in yours as well. But this is going to take ages because we have a gluing step here. Thanks to the wonders of the of video editing, I need to glue the wings on and get the spar in, and then I need to come back and then I need to get these fins glued in afterwards. So in reality, this is it's a really quick build, but I need to leave it overnight for the wings to glue up and set. So let's go and get these wings glued on. I'll glue on one side, and then by the magic of video editing, I'll be back to you the next day, and we'll get that. Ow, crap! That knife sharp. We'll get the winglets on and get it finished off as well. So let's move those bits out of the way. Now I mentioned the wings. What am I going to do with these? I'm going to get some Yoo-Hoo piss pull out and stick that down the main shaft. And I need some pins. So why am I saying Yoo-Hoo piss poor? In short, I need a runny glue to go down the actual wings themselves across this main spar. So we need something which is going to be a little bit sticky and will last a while. And the E6000 glue is just going to be far too runny. So what I'm going to do for this is that on the main spar I'm going to use Yoo-Hoo Pour for that. So we'll turn that back around that way. So we're going to put that in about the right length. What excess I've just got off I'm going to stick on the side. So I'm going to do the left wing first. So there's the left wing, and I'm just going to quickly fill up the main tube or main spar inside of there. Just going to stick some Yoo-Hoo Pour, obviously too much because it's been spilled out at the end. That's always a good sign. Then for the actual gluing, the main glue for this, and again I'm using a mixture because it feels right. The Yoo-Hoo Pour is a very liquid glue, whereas the E6000 is a much thicker glue and feels like the best glue for the job here. So of course you could use either or both like I'm doing. That's really up to you. Remember, it's your model. And then we'll stick a bit in there too and get that done up. Brilliant. And let's go and stuff the main spar in the hole as far as it will go. Yep, that's in. Now for this main wing piece we need to make sure that it's going to stay on there overnight and permanently. So this is where craft pins come to the rescue. So I'm just going to use craft pins, just stab them into the model to make sure it gets held in the right place. And you have to excuse me, I'm just standing this up on my desk over this side, so just ramming pins in there to make sure it stays in the right place. The bit of excess which came out, I'm just going to rub along that edge. It's not going to do it any harm. And whatever excess I've got is just gone in the side of the desk, to be brutally honest. Let's clean that edge up. That's done really well. And again, just going to use pins. Again, the other nice thing with once you've got E6000 glue on your fingers is that it does make your fingers quite, it gives you like a layer on top of them, and that does mean that you don't get pricked by the pins so easily, but not ideal to get it on your hands like I said. So I'm just going to fill it up with pins to make sure that tail section really does stay on there, and I'll show you how many pins I've stuck in mine in just a few moments time, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, or not shocked or surprised should I say, by the amount of pins which I've just been stuck in the back of this model. And the reason for that is very simple, is that I want it to stay together and I don't want the wings to come off. So, ooh, that was half a pin. Stick another pin in it as well. Brilliant. There we go. So I've been and stuck that many pins in it. So that's not going to go anywhere, is it? Which is happy days. One thing which I do need to do is clean up the excess glue inside of there. And the reason why I need to clean the excess glue up inside of there is purely down to it's going to be a pain when we put the actual fin in. So I'm using an old 50-30 propeller just to clean up inside of there, because we don't want we don't want to make that difficult for ourselves. And saying that, actually, by the time that went in there so well, as he says so well, he sticks another pin in it. I think what I'm actually going to go and do is I'll just go and get this other wing on, because that's only going to take a few moments really. What I'm going to end up doing is having to go to see if I can get those vertical stabilizers to stick on there as well. So Yoo-Hoo Pour out. I'm going to fill up the main tube. The excess which I just got coming out of the tube I'm going to put on the main spar, and the reason for that, I know it's a contact adhesive, but it will go off eventually, you know, and I've just put that on the main spar, so the main spar is stuck together. Let's go and get our E6000 glue. Again, just covering again on here, go over the edges, back here, and make sure we get that little nodule bit underneath. Brilliant. That should be the end of the glue in. Again, it's a bit of a pain that I've ran out of servos, but hey, it is what it is. Just going to stuff the main spar on. There you go, and I'm going to twist that wing on as it's going down to make sure it really does coat the main spar, which we put the Yoo-hoo paw on. Again, just eyeing it up, it looks right, brilliant. So out comes the pins, and pins away. Let's get some pins along here. Again, just using my finger to clean up the edges. And let's have a quick look. Yeah, that back piece really doesn't have the same issue on the opposite side as well. So I'm just trying not to get this on my clothes at the same time. So again, let's get some pins in here to try and hold it still. I'm going to do that all the way along the fuselage. Make sure it stays put. The excess which we've got there, we can just wipe that up and wipe the rest in the desk as you do. Like I said, it's been like being back in school when you used to wipe the glue in the desk and Mr. Mosley, your CDT teacher, used to tell you off. Not as bad as getting a chisel and doing that in the desk, but hey ho. Too late now to worry about it. That was too many years ago, and that's making me feel old, so I'm shutting up now. Right, there's the lids on. We need to get these fins in, so same process as before. Give them a quick sand. Sand up the inside edge. Sand up the outside edge. Looking good. Yoo-hoo. No, sorry, E6000 for this one. I give a nice little dosel on there. I'm going for a thinner coat this time, and the reason why I'm going for a thinner coat is because I've got to put. I don't want to end up putting too much pressure on this and having to deal with a load of oozing out, if that makes sense. So make sure you get the right winglet for the right side. Again, I assume they should be pointing outwards. And if they're not supposed to be pointing outwards, then I'm sure you're there laughing your tits off at Matt for sticking it the wrong way round. But that does kind of make sense that they are pointing outwards. And I'm sure time will tell whether I'm correct or you're there laughing your boobies off at me. In short, so just get some things in there. Plenty of E6000 in on that edge. Just going to get another pin in there as well. Yeah, that really has stuck together nicely now. Right, let's turn it round and do the opposite side. So there's the fin. Now it is pointing outwards. Let's go and grab the other one. Hardly taxing, really, is it, making this model? It's not on a scale of 1 to 10. It's not really hard. It's just glue a couple of surfaces, and to be brutally honest, you could have probably just been on and used hot glue for this, because hot glue does work really well. We did do a test in one of the RC coffee chats a while back, and it did turn out that hot glue did perform surprisingly well. So yeah, definitely used too much glue on this one. It's always a good sign. I did notice that pin was too far in, so right, let's go and get this side in now. Make sure it's in there. Slosh it around to make sure it really is stuck down. Get ourselves some more of those pins. Again, you can pick these pins up from your the pound shops or the dollar stores, I presume, if you're in the US. They are super cheap. You buy them on little reels and they cost like £1. So happy days, and I get the missus to get us some when she goes up into the high street. Brilliant. Right. Just cleaning up, looking up on the inside. That seems to have worked quite well. There's the underside. Hot glue didn't come out very well, but let's not tell anybody about that. And there's the top of the model. And I must admit, there's absolutely no weight to this, and it does kind of look like a bit of a bat, if I'm honest. It does look a bit odd, as in that it does look like a bat. It's quite a unique looking model. I've not seen something with such weird little fins pointing out the top. Oh, and pants. I've been and turned the hot glue gun off, so I need to go on and put some magnets in. We also need to stick in the floor as well, which only goes in one way round. Now, before I do that, actually, oh, you bright spark. Do you know what? Learn from my mistakes is that base won't go in now. It's probably a good idea that you actually stick that piece in first. That's always a good sign. Let's go and get the, well, dirty Dremel out, to be honest. Oh, that smells lovely. There we go. Jobs are good. Basically, those two catches, there was two little lumps at the back, which then meant we couldn't get the plywood base in there. And I know that you're supposed to just use Yoo-Hoo Pour, and that'll be a contact adhesive, but and you could put a battery strap underneath here if you want to. I'm not going to use a battery strap, to be honest. I don't really get on with them. I'm just going to stick some Velcro on the bottom. And talking about sticking, just going to quickly sand up the base on there. Just get in there with the sanding pad. Give that a quick sand. And let's give that a damn good dose of some E6000. Get all the way around the edges, and again, it doesn't really matter, it's only on the inside. And to be honest, a little bit more glue in here is not going to go amiss, because it will help give the model some rigidity along the floor of the model itself. So there we go. Stick that in. Nice big dose of E6000. Poke that down that end, stuff it in that end. Right, let's make sure that's down flat. Give it a good little shake around. I'm sure that's moving the camera, apologies for that. And again, if you're in doubt whether it's going to stay still, stick a few pins in it. And I'm slowly getting through that tub of pins here. Put that one in there. That's what I'm just going to stick another one in that side. Like so. And there we go. Right, that now needs, and again there is a little coney bit which we need to stick on there, and there is this funny bit of black plastic which I'm really not sure what it's for. It might be as a scuff for the bottom of the model. I just genuinely don't know what that's for at the moment. Anyway, still waiting on the servos to turn up. Need to glue in a couple more magnets. Battery, ESC, motor, and jobs are good. And I don't know how long we've been chatting here for. It is what it is, you know. But it's all stuck together. It looks pretty good. And to be frank, it's too late now. We've been and glued it. So that is the Black Wing. I'm really curious to see how this little wing is going to do, or how it's going to fly. It's got a nice big fuselage. The wing cord is very, very thin. Let me just turn it around that way. The wing cord is exceptionally thin, to say the least. So goodness knows what it's going to be like in the sky. And that's why we always say we're going to hold off in the final judgment until we see the model fly. So, with that said, for myself, Matt, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this episode. And thank you for joining me here on the desk. We've just been here chit-chatting away, sniffing glue of different types of form, burning fingers with hot glue, playing with mantles, and just generally, yeah, enjoying the hobby in short. So with that said, from myself, Matt, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this episode, and I'll see you again shortly. And make sure you press subscribe if you're not already subscribed, because we're going to go out and maid in this one very, very shortly. And it could be a complete dog, or it could be a complete peach. Nobody knows. So with that said, cheerios. Well, good evening actually. It's getting quite late here now in the United Kingdom of not very niceness. Anyway, the Black Wing. I'll turn it round that way. She's almost ready. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick look over the things which I've been and done for this little Black Wing, and we do need to do one of the most crucial mods going, which is to put some sellotape along the leading edge. Now before we do that, let's take a look at the setup. So at the rear, what I've been and done, I saw this come up on Banggood ages ago, which was the motor extensions, because you cannot get an 1806 motor on the back. So I have plumbed for a Turnigy D2826 2200 kV motor with a 6x4 prop. Brilliant for 3S, crazy on 4S. And by the way, if you do put this on that combo on 4S, you will need a 40 amp ESC because it pulls 37 amps on the bench. So yeah, you can't get away with a 30 amp ESC unless you fancy cooking it and the model. Anyway, 6x4 prop on the back, really straightforward. Oh, I did have to make a little plywood plate so that it would mount down correctly, and I've just used some wood screws up, there's a propeller in the way, up underneath just to hold it still in there. It's not going anywhere at all. Then on the top we have a 25 milliwatt, of course, it says 25 milliwatts on it, video transmitter, which I've just velcroed in. I've put a cable tie around the top, and then there's a hole for the cable to come up out of the bottom. The antenna's coming forwards. Now that does seem like the kind of, it looks a bit weird, but it does kind of make sense, so that we've got the video transmitter as far as away from the noisy components back here, which are the motor and the ESC. So that's at the back, and then we've got the video transmitter up near the front. You'll see that I've mounted the little Runcam 2 in there. Oh, there was this funny little black piece of plastic which came in the thing, and I didn't know what it was for. And thank you, Andy HK, you know who you are, sir, thank you very much. Is actually a cover to go over this area here if you didn't want to put a camera in. So maybe you just wanted to blank that section off, then you could just glue that in there, and if you weren't going to run a HD camera, but in my case I want to run a HD camera, so I'm going to leave that in there. You'll also notice that it is pretty much balancing bang on the CG at the moment, maybe a little tad nose heavy, which is always a good thing for a maiden. So keep that in the back of your minds when we open up this lid. I've been and glued the magnets in up underneath, really straightforward, isn't it? And notice underneath here, let me put that on the camera for you, is that I've just used a bit of ID card and the cable tie around it, a bit of goop glue to hold that still, and then there's a hole in there for the video cable for the transmitter to go out of the edge. So there's the lid, nice and straightforward. You'll see the battery placement which I've got there, 1300 3S pack. It's not right up the nose, so that's happy days. There is we could perhaps fly this with a 2200 3S if we wanted to. You will notice in here we've got the a hub OSD board. Now I'm not going to go into the setup of that. All I'm going to say for that is that it shows us the battery voltage, the flight time, and it gives us an idea on the current consumption as well, and that's why we've got that one in there, so we've got an idea on what kind of efficiency and how much battery we've got left in it. You've got the Hobby King 30 amp 3 ESC at the back, cables come up underneath. If I quickly just turn this up the other way, there's those servos which I mentioned. Again, I've just stuck a bit of tape on it for now. I found two in a different box, so those are the Tower Pro MG90S. They really are metal geared servos. I took those apart in one of the RC coffee chats. As you can tell by the smears of hot glue, I just hot glued them in there. Again, really dirty and quick to do. Turn it back over. So we've got the battery in there. In the nose, I'm going to do a mini review on this Eachine CCD camera, because I know that these things are utter shite. But I was thinking at it, looking at the hole, and it was kind of like the right hole for one of those. So what we're going to do, we're going to stick that in the nose, and that has worked out really well. But the camera is not very good at all. So all I'm going to do, I'm not going to glue that in there. I'm just going to tape that in there and push it forwards a bit so it pokes out the nose area just like that. But the camera's not very good, so we'll do a review within a review. And then all I've done in the middle bit is just put a bit of Velcro down. So with that said, I'm going to stick a bit of tape up over the top to make sure that camera holds down. Oh, another little benefit for the using the hub OSD board, is that it will provide filtered power for both the video transmitter and the FPV camera as well. So yeah, definite bonus for using that, and you of course you get the on-screen display as well. I will do a video of that sooner or later. I've got a couple of them there. They work really well, like in the hardcore wings, which I don't want iNav in them, but I would like to know what's going on. So that's the camera just taped in. Now the last thing which I've got to do is to get some of this sellotape, and all I'm going to do is start out here near the wingtips, and I hope that's coming out alright on the camera. Yeah. Let me move that round so you can see what's going on. Just going to start out here on the wingtip. Just get a sharp-ish knife, because I have covered that one in glue, and then we're just going to work from the outside in. I'm just going to bend that round, okay, and we just focus upon the top. Now this one does have a little funny ridge thing over there, so we're getting as far as we can. There we go. And again, I need to just clean up that edge just there, bend that up out of the way. Okay, and the reason why I put those little slits in it up on the end, it was just to help it bend round the corner. Without those slits in there, then it would end up creasing and it would have looked pants, and that's the last thing which we want, is for the model to look pants. And the last piece in there, well, for the right wing anyway, is that we're going to get that, line it up approximately right. Again, just rub a finger slowly along the leading edge. Again, I hope that's coming out right for you. Just along the leading edge, and then get it up and work our way backwards. Brilliant. Happy days. And that just means now that when we land, or when me or you land on grass, is that this front leading edge is going to be infinitely tougher. So if you clip a tree or a branch or something like that, or you're landing in grass, is not going to rip chunks out the leading edge of your glass of your wing, and you would be surprised how well that works. I'll tell you what, while I'm doing the other side, I'll talk you through what happened with the Micro Sky Munter. Now, I'm sure many of you already know Dave's wood, because he stuck his Hornet wing in it. Anyway, I was FPVing right in up against the inside edge of it, and there was this ghost branch, and I was going it full knacker in the Micro Sky Munter, and I hit it, and the model it span, and I caught it, and I landed it down flat. It was, considering the situation, it was a 10 out of 10 landing. I wish I was recording it. Anyway, we got it down, and I went over and had a look, and there was this tiniest little dent in the wing, and I'd hit the wing in the tree at full knacker on this branch, and because of just having a little bit of sellotape, like I'm doing right now, all the way along the leading edge, is that it pretty much saved the wing, in short. So yeah, 5 minutes for some sellotape, and by the way, do not skimp on sellotape. Make sure you get the pucker stuff, and I'll take the tape out of my mouth now. Yeah, make sure you get the pucker stuff. Don't skimp and use cheapo sellotape, because it really is false economy. And yeah, that reel cost me £1. £1. Well, yeah, not cheap. But on the flip side, I've not had a single issue with it. So yeah, don't skimp on sellotape, is what I'm trying to say. And it does. Well, that works out well, Matt. Again, just taking my time with it, bending it over slowly, and brilliant. There we go. Tidy up on that little nodule. It's like the Eurofighter, as Martin was saying in one of the comments yesterday on the actual unboxing video. And there we go. That's the only real mod which I'm going to do to it. I've just been to put some sellotape along the leading edges. And besides that, besides sticking a receiver in, I will stick the receiver in on the side of the model and then dangle the antennas out the front. We're not really going to be doing a long distance with this one at all. But yeah, the little Black Wing, or I was actually thinking of calling it the Bat Wing, is ready for a maiden, or bar a receiver. In short, the wire comes out the hub OSD board will go up and connect to that. I can do that easily on the flight line. Can't actually change the channel on that one because I've cable tied it down, so we'll make sure nobody else is in the sky at the same time. Servo control horns were the push rods, sorry, very, very good. And yeah, nice little clevises which they've got on there too. And now it's time for the maiden, so look out for that in the near future. And from myself, Matt, thank you very much for joining me here on the desk. This build, yeah, really straightforward. It was the longest part was waiting for the glue to set, wasn't it? That's all we were waiting for the glue to set, and we just had a bit of a chit chat here on the desk. So any questions which you've got about the Black Wing, please just ask in the comments section underneath this video. I'd really appreciate your feedback as well. So on that note, from myself, Matt, and the Black Wing, cheerios, or cheerios. See you soon. Bye-bye.